Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Touch My Clock. Now, today we thought it's our 30th episode or 31st episode at this point.
Wow.
And we still
Getting
haven't talked about one of the most crucial components in a watch, which is
the dial.
Brown.
the dial. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about dials, but we know that you can spend maybe 2 to 17 hours talking about dials. So what we're going to try to do is talk about dials, but we're not going to talk about certain elements. We're not going to talk about dial configurations, as in the numerals, how the certain dials are divvied up. We're not going to talk about skeletonization, which we could do a whole episode about. We're really just going to talk about the different materials that you'll find in dials, and that's kind of the focus today.
I have a sense this could be about 20 spin-off episodes from today.
So if you like this episode, please let us know. Maybe we'll make a new one.
Absolutely. So remember to
Like
and to
Subscribe.
keep the comments coming in. Max.
Awesome. So, shall I start with the more traditional aspects of
Well, how about
the
a...
wristwatch check? You know, it's funny. 31 episodes.
And
30
just starting to get the hang of it. Yeah.
I'm still
Slowly, you know.
So sorry. Eliot, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing a Buddha Stop. So this is a watch from the 70s-ish. This entire line of watches were made to look expensive, but they're actually really cheap. So I think it's really nice. It's not a real chrono that you can see on there. It's just a start and stop. But yeah, I really like it.
Very good. What's the sub-dial, or within the center of the dial? What does it show?
It's when you get shot by a cannon, so you can see how far it comes from.
So useful if you were to go to certain countries.
Very useful.
Yeah. Jason, what are you wearing?
So today I am wearing my Citizen Urushi. Bearing in mind we're talking about dials today, an absolutely perfect watch to wear and talk. So I'm going to hold off a little bit and I'm going to talk about this dial when we get into the detail of the actual talking about the different finishes. The Citizen Urushi.
Oh, you've never seen this?
I was shown very quickly, but anyways,
Eliot watches every episode.
It's cool to see in person, and that is actually, I have to say, for the price, and we'll talk about it later, but it may be one of the best styles you can get.
Yeah,
This is true. I agree.
And there's a second example that we'll talk about as well that shows that price isn't always everything. But there is something true. I think we've worn a different watch for every single episode so far, except for one, where I think we repeated a Seiko when we talked about Seiko Seiko. And definitely had a different baseball hat for every single episode.
That's true.
So there we are. Very fascinating horological facts.
Congratulations.
Max, what are you wearing?
I keep forgetting. I feel like we've done so many of these at this point. I'm wearing, this is Eliot's gift. This was Eliot's Christmas gift. It's, I couldn't tell you what the reference number is or what the name of the series is, but it's a really cute little watch. It's got all of the hours are indicated with a different language, and I still play the game where I try to ask people, do you know which language this is? And I played this when I was in Spain, trying to ask different people from different nationalities, hey, can you tell me if one of these is yours? So I haven't finished it all, and it's a little bit of a, it's a
Cool design.
Very cool. Thank you, Eliot.
You're welcome. And I went to the museum in Biel of Swatch. So I had to walk around and you could see every single swatch that they manufactured from the history of time. It was quite cool going through everything. I can put some pictures up there.
You had quite an adventure in Switzerland.
Yeah, I had a very good adventure.
Without the boys.
Yeah. I didn't want them there.
So, on that rude note, let's talk about dials. I think the ones I'm going to cover are a little bit more traditional. Maybe we jump from one person to another. I wanted to start with one that you often hear when you're thinking about fine watchmaking or luxury watchmaking, however you call it, and that's Guilloché. Now, here are two machines that perform Guilloché. You've got the straight line engine and you've got the rose engine machine. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because Guilloché isn't a one term applies for everything. Guilloché encompasses so many different techniques.
It didn't mean just machine engraved.
It encompasses the technique and the machines that engrave or impart artistic designs onto precious metals or items using straight cut or a chiseling method.
Good memory.
So those distinctions you'll see through these two machines. Now, if you're trying to get anything that is a straight line, you'll use the straight line machine. If you're trying to use anything that's a pattern that's based on a circular motion, you're going to be using the rose engine machine.
Okay.
We've all practiced this. And Jager look good.
No.
What were we doing with the machine?
We were not doing
With the servant?
not doing Guilloché.
No, we're not doing
No,
that.
it was
There you go.
finishing,
Finishing. All right.
which is not the same.
We're good finishers.
So what's important about this machine is that although it seems like it's almost like it's very complicated, and then when you break it down it's very simple, and then you go back to the very complicated, because the way that these work, just to simplify both the straight line machine and the rose engine machine, is that you sit down and you apply a certain amount of pressure to the machine. It's all hand motions that will activate this, and this pressure will essentially engrave or chisel a line. And usually the artistry is in the setting of the machine, because you have to change the machine. I believe all of these are called roses on the rose engine machine, which dictate the pattern. You have to change them and calibrate them super carefully to the 0.1 millimeter close, so you actually get these beautiful engravings. But something we are seeing nowadays, and this is really important if you are incredibly lucky and able to afford yourself a watch that's in the 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 pound mark, is that this old technique is now being copied with more modern machinery. And so I wanted to show you an example of 3 different types of engraving you can do to get that guilloché style. So we have engine turn, which is what we were talking about on a lathe. A lathe is anything that has a circular motion to it. You've got the Patek Philippe reference below, you've got this above. You have CNC. So CNC machines now have a level precision.
Lasers, they just do it for you.
No. So laser cutting and CNC is different. A CNC is ultimately a drill bit that goes into something and can move around with flexibility. But the last one is stamped. And why I think this is really important to talk about is because they will use a die and they will press into the metal to get the shape. If you buy a Patek from 2016 and before, there's a high likelihood you're going to get something that's handmade. If you're buying one now, it's very possible you're just getting it stamped. And for me, I find it ridiculous that you're asking the same sum of money for something that's a stamp via someone that artisanally crafts every single...
Or I'd wager more money over the years from a stamp one from the original.
What?
Well, they're more expensive now.
What are? Stamps?
Stamp.
The watches.
What watches?
I'm confused.
Anyway.
You were saying?
Yeah. That's all on guilloché. Super cool technique, but nowadays just make sure that even if it looks like a guilloché, it might not be one. Very cool. Jason, do you have something you want to talk about?
What shall I talk about? I tell you what, let's talk about Urushi. Talk about lacquers. So there's actually a couple of interesting ways on lacquers. There's a couple of routes. The first route is this is the Marquetry that we've shown before, and it has a highly lacquered, a really highly lacquered metal dial to such a point that it actually almost looks like porcelain. And it's really that, and it gives it that really old-fashioned kind of look. And that's just quite layers and layers of lacquering. And interestingly enough, you can't actually put lacquer on porcelain because I think the whole thing just blows. And goes terribly wrong. But Urushi, we've all known these on very expensive pens, and it comes on a lot of watches. Actually, Urushi, the technique, which is basically sort of lacquer, came from the Jamon period, not to be confused with the Spanish jamon. And the Jamon period, which was about 10,000 years ago.
Come on.
And so this is a really old technique, and it's just layer and layer and layer. Now, interesting, Urushi comes from the name of a Urushi tree. And the Urushi tree takes about 5 years to mature. And when it matures in 5 years, you only get about 200 milliliters of the sap, which is used for the lacquering. And that's the equivalent, I think, of a small latte. So imagine 10 years for a small latte. We wonder why it's so expensive. And clearly it's always done by hand. But what it does for the watch is it gives an incredible depth, an incredible dimension. And it's almost like 3D, isn't it? And you can just see through it. I mean, just the quality of that dial for the price. It truly is absolutely
It's
stunning.
just that, to me, it's the depth that you get from that.
Very nice.
Going above and above and above and above the same finish just creates a level of depth that's gorgeous.
So there's Urushi.
Very nice. Very cool watch.
Eliot,
That is nice.
have you got a technique for us? Have you got a dial?
No, I've got no idea. I'm lost.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. It was
Let's talk about stone dials.
Yeah.
So stone dials was a really big thing, mainly in the 70s. Piaget was like probably the main manufacturer of all these stone dials. And you can have different types. So you can either have, with lapis, if some people using other stones, other precious metals in that sense. You have also the people doing with meteorite. But it's not as easy as you would think. You'd think you just get, you would get a piece of lapis, cut it, and then done. Just put it on a dial. Well, not exactly. It's quite complicated because first of all, you need to source your stone. And you want it to have a certain kind of pattern, a certain kind of strength, because when you're going to start, what you need to do is you need to basically blast it, and you need to cut and polish the actual piece of stone. And because it will be very sensitive, sometimes it can crack. So that's why the sourcing is really important. Then the polishing part, you really want to know a good stone inside as well, so then you get a good pattern when it comes out. After, it needs to be glued onto a metal brass plate, because on its own, it's not going to withstand.
Oh, okay.
So it's usually put on a brass plate, which is also glued. So the stone will be glued on a brass plate, which is, you have to be very careful with the application of that, because of course you glue coming everywhere, or if it's not well laid, it's not going to go well. So it's not as easy as it seems. And I think this is coming back slowly. I think there's a brand called Denison who used to make pocket watches, and a very, very famous brand, and they're just recently coming out with a lot of stone dials, and they're really nice, and they're really affordable. I assume
my sense, this will be the trend of the year. I think we've already seen Baltic, who are a French manufacturer, who make very, very simple watches, and they've come out with a lapis and a sort of stone and some other materials. I honestly think that those ones are the ones that are going to trend this year, I think we're going to see them in a lot more dials.
I agree.
Would you wanna put a guess on what the stone of the year is going to be then?
The blue lapis.
Yeah, I think lapis will come back, because there's a lot of people coming into vintage at the moment and collecting all these stone dials. I think it just eventually will just come back. But on the stone again, we talk about meteorite because it's basically the same. It's just you getting a stone that's come out of outer space. Now I can tell you the distinction of what it means if it's a meteor or a meteorite, because it's not the same. A meteor is a meteoroid that's burning up through the atmosphere, which you would call a shining light. A shining star. That's what you would see, is a meteor burning up. The problem is they would burn up and then they would just disintegrate. A meteorite is when it's big enough that even after disintegration coming in the atmosphere, it hits Earth and then stays there. So it becomes a meteorite, and that's when it becomes a meteorite, which is when we collect it.
Interesting.
So meteor in the sky, meteorite in the ground.
So ultimately, when you're talking about a watch with meteorite dial, you've got something that is truly out of this world.
Exactly. So this was a watch that all three of us bought. And we still own, of course. And it's a Sultan, and what they did is the same. They just collected a big piece of meteorite and then polished it and put it into the dials, and it looks really nice because every pattern will be unique, which is one thing about stones which is really nice. So that's stones.
That's very cool. And from stones back to earthly materials, I'm going to talk about enamel. Now, I think it's good to talk about enamel with porcelain because it often gets confused. Now, the major difference between enamel and porcelain, even though they look visually the same, is that enamel is going to be made out of powdered glass fused onto a metal base. That could be copper, silver, or gold at very high temperatures. And porcelain is a type of ceramic instead. It's usually made out of clay, like a kaolin clay typically, and it's also fired at very, very, very high temperatures. But the difference in terms of the material is, and you can see this if you go to a museum. If you go to a museum and you still look at the porcelain pots, it could be, I don't know, a porcelain vase from the Ming Dynasty, it's still going to look amazing. It's still going to have that amazing quality and the whiteness that it gets from it. Enamel doesn't hold it as much. However, porcelain is far more likely to crack. And so people tend to go off of using porcelain for watches and they're going into enamel. The one watch that I wanted to share that apparently still uses porcelain, which is quite nice, is the, again, Seiko, just always at the top of their game, the Seiko Arita. And what they've done even more complicated is, if you can see in the dial, do you see how it bends down and bends up? And that's because if you're working with clay, you can make, you can shape it. Now, this is super tricky to do, but there you go. Big distinction between the two.
Interesting.
Yeah. Jason, what's your next one? What's the next dial?
Smoking. Fumé. Fumé, my man.
Yeah.
A great technique. It's really just about gradients, but it does have an incredibly good look. Not too dissimilar in terms of sometimes the Urushi. But when you look at it, when it goes dark to light from the outside to the middle of the dial, that whole smoke thing I think is great. And there's some really, really good examples out there. The H. Moser, the funky blue Fumé. I mean, it's a really, really great name, isn't it? I mean, you just can't sort of knock that. And of course, here I am waiting on the list for my Anodyne that I was on the list, I think, when I was 3. So I've only got another 20 odd years, and I think I should really be there, and then I'll have an absolutely Fumé to be able to show you. So yeah, smoking, and that's probably another one that I think will continue to trend. Hard to do.
How is it manufactured? Okay, so I'm going to talk about mine on.
To be fair, you know, it's a metal template. If you look at the Anodyne site, it's a metal template, and they stamp on the top. And as simple as that.
I'm so glad he doesn't do architecture, because he'll get on site, and then the contractor will be like, "How do you build this?" And you'll go like this,
and the nail is
bring it down. It's just
you put 2 nails together.
The nail,
it makes a super nail,
and it makes a big one.
And you hammer them in. So there you go. There's your technical piece. And just now on the bottom of the screen, you'll see Max's little mini video showing you exactly how they're doing it.
He's not going to do it.
Right, that's it.
All right. So
Eliot,
I'll talk about 2 techniques which are very, very similar and look quite similar. So you have gilt dials.
You're going vintage.
And matte dials. Yeah, so this is mainly vintage. So gilt dials you saw mainly in Tudors and Rolexes. They're both doing it. And you get this gold-like appearance. And being something gilt is usually when it's applied with gold. So what they would do is you would have a brass plate. Okay. They would be printed with a cleared lacquer design, and they would be dipped in a black electroplating bath.
Ooh.
And what that does is the black adheres to the non-lacquered areas, which then shows the design. So what you then have is, like you would see on these vintage Seikos, you would have this.
Oh wow!
You would have this really black dial, but also very metallic-like, which gives this gold-like appearance. And that's what the gilt dials were. It's not done anymore, really, because it's quite complicated to make and it's quite expensive. So it's usually not a technique we do anymore. But a lot of people liked it because the gilt dials will then change color a lot. So that's when you would get the tropical dials, and all of this would come from gilt dials because of that method.
Oh, interesting. So it's basically whatever is the brass plating below. When that top layer fades, it goes closer to that color, which is why it's a bit orangey and a bit.
Exactly, it glues to that part.
Interesting.
And matte dials, which it's very similar, but you would have to really look at it. You see there's always these patterns. There's like dots everywhere. So basically it's always a uniform non-textured dial, and it was either done in 3 ways. So it's sandblasted, it's acid etching, or bead blasting. So what it is, so sandblasting is pretty simple. You would just get loads of small grains of sand and shoot them at a dial. So you would get all these dots all over the place. Same with bead blasting. It's basically the same, but with like really small glass beads. And that would just hit the dial. And acid etching is just the same as in gilt in some way. You would basically put the dial in acid, which would then burn up the dial, and then you would get a different texture each time. You would get a different kind of pattern.
Interesting.
And that's how matte looks. And matte is, usually just like really non-textured straight dial. Nothing really on it.
Oh.
So
Non-shiny.
2 vintage techniques. What?
Non-shiny.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's a good point. The difference between
it's matte, so
something that's matte and something that's polished.
Yeah. So yeah.
But that's an interesting technique, because that goes to my next one, which is you'll see here with frosting.
Kellogg's.
So frosting.
What did you say?
Kellogg's.
Kellogg's. Oh, right.
Kellogg's frosting.
Frosty.
Very watch related, yeah.
Frosting the Snowman.
It's a good movie on Netflix about Kellogg's.
Is that?
Yeah, we watched it. Really, you should watch it.
What's the movie about?
Kellogg's cereal.
But he was a big snip the penis guy.
What?
Yeah. Do you not know about Kellogg's and snip the penis?
Cut.
This is serious. Kellogg's was like a massive. He was a massive driving force to why like all Americans are circumcised, even though there's no religious background, because he wanted to stop people from masturbating, and so he wanted young boys to have their the end of their penises chopped off, because at the time, right, you wouldn't have any. I'm not going to describe it, but anyways, it gets really rough and dry, right? And so by having it cut, it stops people from wanting to masturbate. And he was a very, very, very religious person.
It's a very watch-related podcast.
How does that got to do with breakfast cereal?
Because Mr. Kellogg's was the
No, you ruined Kellogg's.
He pushed circumcision and also
ruined
cereals.
Kellogg's cereal.
Is the
There we are.
there we go.
On watch.
Oh, fascinating.
So
Back to Frosties.
frosting, when you have a metal dial, it basically gets it gets heated up to a certain point, and then the impurities rise up to the surface. And what you would do is you would add traditionally, and you can see, I believe Rogers still does this. Roger Smith. Roger Smith. You'd put an acid onto it, and it'll start to burn a little bit. And if you can control it, that gives those little dotted aspects. The other way of doing it, again, you always have to think about how would someone do this nowadays. Is I bet you could CNC it, but also hand hammering. You would take a small hammer and a hand, and you start chiseling it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it gives that back.
Interesting.
Jason, have you got another one for us?
What's your last one?
Why are we going to talk about the worst ever possible watch dial you've seen?
Not yet.
No.
I mean, I'm done. So.
Okay, let me give one more then. This is a very, very old school technique. It's called Marquetry. Can you guess what Marquetry is?
Yeah, simple. Marquetry.
Let him find it. Let him find it. Let's see.
There it is. Marquetry is a very, very intricate design, loved by architects, apparently.
No. I'm getting so happy we're not sending you to a construction site. Marquetry is layering different materials to get something. So if you look at this, it's using wood, it's using leather, it's using other natural materials to create a shape on a dial. This is almost like if you want to get a super fancy Mr. Jones, then you look at marquetry techniques rather than having it through enameling.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've dipped into dials, but again, we could have talked for 20 hours on Guilloché alone, let alone the many, many types of dials. But it's fascinating to show the craftsmanship and work that goes into these timepieces.
Yeah. So, like you were saying, we're going to do a segment called Ugliest Dial.
And there's half an hour of editing.
What is one of the ugliest dials you can think of? A dial you really dislike?
Okay, so from a brand that I adore, and I have some of the pieces, to some of the watches I absolutely admire, they came out with the Pizza Studio Underdog. I have to be honest, that's probably the ugliest dial I think I've ever seen inside my life.
Oh, there goes a
The most
that.
talented person I know, and he's got some incredibly good watches, and we just love them all. In fact, I've got a few. They are amazing. That one particular one is a very personal choice.
It's not really
pretty
It's
ghastly.
not to your taste.
It's not
Not to my taste.
He's not a pineapple on pizza guy.
He's not.
Not a pineapple on pizza.
He is the watermelon guy because he has one. Not a pineapple pizza.
And their field watches were stunning.
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
we can't collab.
And the field watches were stunning. Oh, come on, the Fears collaboration that they brought out for the British watch thing was stunning. So they're the most amazing watches.
See it
That
today?
particular one, just
Fair enough. For me, the worst ever one was the Panther. Like the Rolex Panther is for me the most horrendous watch dial in existence.
What's the Rolex Panther?
It just looks like Tiger dial or whatever it is. Worn by who's the actor that does every single movie without seeing what the script is? What's his name?
The bees.
Yeah, the guy.
sorry, only it's got
What's
the,
his name?
It's got the Tiger strap as well.
Yeah, what's his name again?
Oh, do you mean like the stone is a?
No. It's the. It's just this. I can't. What's his name? It's the bees.
The bees.
Don't worry, I'll cut this point until the point of us finding out what's.
There we are.
Okay,
Okay, we're back. Wait, we have to fake that we didn't research this for.
We're back. Okay, so after a very extensive non-research that we didn't just do after this cut was clip. Anyway, for me, it's the Eye of the Tiger. I mean, I think only Nicolas Cage can pull this off. I think he's the only person where it looks normal because he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But for me, this is the
Brave.
How is it?
horrendous.
What is it? Is it just a
Very brave.
Do you think?
Honestly, I don't want to know. It should be in the trash. That's it. That's for me the ugliest style though there is.
Pretty ugly.
Max, for you?
My one is more category rather than type of watch. It's just wood. That's it.
There goes sustainability.
It's just not meant for it. It doesn't look right.
I don't know. There's some manufacturers that do wooden dials, which is not bad. Shouldn't even protect it.
I would. How about this? If there isn't the artistry or the knowledge behind to make sure that your dial doesn't just like start to, break out after a couple of years. B, you're able to treat it so that humidity doesn't actually start to. If it's actually wood, then you have issues with humidity, and you'll see watches often it will get very smoky inside. If that happens to a dial, you effed up the dial.
Yeah, tropical wooden dial.
No, you just get the things that like start to expand and your hands start.
Yeah, would disintegrate. Yeah, it's probably not.
I don't like wooden dial.
Yeah, I agree. Wooden watches either.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's about wooden dials. That's about watch dials.
What about what?
This is watch dials. But it watch dials.
You forgot what we were talking about.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Thank you everyone for watching. We hope this was relatively informative. And we can definitely start doing another second or even third episode just talking about watch dial. We haven't even talked about numerals yet, which could be an entire section.
It would be nice learning how Dad knows how it's made.
That as well. Having said that, it was very cool to see you bring some cool little pieces
Very cool.
for today.
So people don't forget to
Like and
Subscribe.
and
thank you for watching Touch My Clock.
Bye.